Okay, so this was a little project that I was putting together for my daughter. She seemed to be interested in Arduino, and or at least in, um, you know, she wanted to design her own robots and whatnot. So this is kind of a progressive set of classes to work up to using Arduino UNO, which happens to be significantly cheaper than some of the other stuff on the market. Um, Everything that we're going to be using on here is all open source and free. And most of it and then actually all of it can be run in the browser, which is nice. So pretty much any device can run this. And then as far as like if you want to build along with us in the real world, which we'll also be doing some uploads of that, we can do those for relatively cheap. I think I paid $35 for the mega starter kit for an Arduino Uno and a bunch of LEDs and motors and servos and whatnot. So you might be asking what the Arduino Uno is. It's a microchipped ATmega 328 microcontroller. It's a single board, basically, controller. It's developed by Arduino. It's all open source. You could, in theory, take it and build your own if you wanted. And it's powered by a USB cable. It communicates over USB. You can also power it with a 9-volt battery. There's 14 digital pins and 6 analog pins used for input and output, and you can also connect shields or expansion boards to those. So we're going to go ahead and start. You'll have this PDF available to you. The first one that we're doing is the blinking lights. It's the 101, and as you can see, the goal is to make these LEDs blink. We're going to hopefully make them blink in different ways and let you decide on ways that you'd like to blink them. Important thing to note here, what we're doing is we are taking 3 of these digital pins. We are making them outputs. We have no inputs on this. We're just going to start the code, let the lights do whatever the code tells them to. For information, these ground pins are all the same. They're all on the same plane, ground plane. You can use any one of them. If you want to use different pins over here, that's fine. Just make sure that you reflect that in your code. So to build this circuit digitally, we're going to be using TinkerCad. You can sign up for a free one. A lot of the schools already have them. The only other one that we'll be using in this is going to be the Blockly Arduino block coding. And we'll go through setting that up in a little bit. There's a shortcut in the PDF. If not, just search Blockly at Arduinos. We're going to go to circuits. These will also be available if you'd like to review them or if you'd like to test your code on them. If it's not working on yours, you can search for it. They're all public. I don't know if I can link to them. If I can, I will put a link in either the PDF or somewhere. So we're just gonna go ahead and build a new one though. So we'll start with a new circuit. That's where you're going to be starting. And we're going to pull out the Arduino UNO, some LEDs. We're going to need 3 resistors. Okay, so we're going to pull out 3 resistors. We're going to make sure that they are set to 220 ohms by clicking on it and changing the value in here. This number is not critical. You could get away with 330 or 320s. If you do that, Control Z gets rid of it. 220. Okay, and as noted on our form here, pay very close attention to the orientation. So we're going to come over here, and it doesn't really matter which side you put the resistor on. We're going to put it on. We're going to put it over here just because. And we'll do this. This is probably not going to be as neat and pretty as my other one because we're trying to get through it quickly. So one thing to note is in order to click on this again, we need to click off of here. And then we can click on the terminal. And then wherever we want to make a turn, we click, and then we can turn. And then we can come back in here and straighten these out if we want. So we need to finish hooking this up. We need to change some LED colors and go 4, 5, and 6 for our pins. So to change the colors, we click on it. Green, yellow, and red. And then we are going to leave this one here. We'll make it a little bit prettier. And our last one. And if we want to change the color of the wire here, we just select the wire we want to change the color of, and we can change the color. Okay, so we are pretty much built here. So we're going to come back over. Now we're going to come over to our code. Now, so okay, so we've got our design set up here. We're going to head over to Blockly, but before we do that, we're going to select on code up here. And while TinkerCad does have block coding that can deal with the Arduino, I prefer Blockly. Blockly has a plugin for Arduino IDE. It seems to be more true to form, I guess. So we're going to go ahead and switch this over to text only. And this will also give some practice copying code, moving it to different programs. It has a lot of benefits. So we're going to leave this. This is the setup that has been, this was a default setup. Obviously nothing in here is what we've been doing over here. Pin mode 13 is not hooked up to anything. So we're going to go on over to Blockly. That's in the PDF. And to set this up, first thing we need to do is we need to select the Arduino UNO. So we got the Arduino UNO. Now we're going to configure blocks. We're going to make this easy. We're going to select Arduino all. We're going to select all. And we're going to hit OK. So now we got our workspace set up. So now for all Arduino, we're going to start with the setup and loop forever. And if we look back over here, we'll see our setup and our loop. So now, what are we supposed to do? Is to start with just turning on all the LEDs. So we're going to start there first. So in Blockly, we're going to pull out outputs. Outputs are obviously outputs. So switches are an input that's telling the board to do something. LEDs, motors, those are all outputs. So we're going to start grabbing our outputs here. And this is where we can start using some of our keys. If we grab this whole thing and do Control-C, and while still holding it, we do Control-V, we can duplicate the entire thing. We can also grab the whole thing, hit Delete to get rid of it. So we only need one more because we're just going to try and turn on the 3 LEDs. click it in here into the loop forever, and we are at pins 4, pins 5, and pin 6. Now we're going to kind of test as we go along. We're going to click the sunglasses up here, copy our code, click in here, Control A selects everything, Control V pastes, and Blockly does something kind of cool for us. As we add these pins, it adds our setup up here. The setup is telling pin mode 4 is an output. So what the setup is telling the board is that this pin, we are going to use it as a standard output. So when that pin writes high, we want to send voltage out of that. So here we go. Let's go ahead and run this and see what it does. And we plug it in and the light comes on. Here's our little reset button so we can start back over at the beginning of the code. And they come on. Stop our code. Now, we want to make these blink. So what we need is we need a time delay. So we're going to use in milliseconds. And I believe we're supposed to delay it a half a second. So we're going to delay it a half a second. And it looks like we're going to blink them on one at a time. So it'll turn this one on, wait a half a second, turn this one on, wait a half a second, turn this one on, wait a half a second, turn all 3 of them off. And then this actually is a mistype. I'm going to try and correct this before, but this should have been 1000 or 1 second. If we don't have this down here, this is going to loop right back up to the top and turn that first LED on. So I'll show you both ways what that looks like. So we're going to start in Blockly, and we're going to put the 1000 at the bottom for now, and then we will duplicate it, and we're going to set that to 500. This is in milliseconds, so that 500 is half of a second, and there's our next one. So yeah, we'd have to add some other stuff. So we'll do 1000 for now. And then we need to turn these pins off. So we're going to go ahead and duplicate this pin. We're going to duplicate, and we're going to duplicate. And I did put this in the wrong spot. So if we grab here, we're grabbing everything. So we're going to have to grab that off, put it here. We need one more of these. Go up here. See if we can get this up to where we can actually see what we're doing. And we want half a second. Okay, so after adding our delays in, now we need to make sure that we turn these off. That's what this is going to be. We're going to turn these off. And we need to make sure our pins are correct. So pins 4, 5, and pin 6. Select our code. We're going to copy our code. Copied. We're going to come over to TinkerCad. Control A for select all. Control V for paste. And we're going to go ahead and start the simulation. Let's see what happens. And we got them all turning on. 1, 2, 3. Turns off. And then 1, 2, 3. So that is 101 setup. We can play around more. You can play around more. There's tons of things. We can change the timing. We can change the light sequence. If you want to even, we can add a couple extra LEDs. Say we add an extra LED here. And we're just going to connect it in. Real quick, show you how you guys can play around. And we're going to connect that to pin 7. But in order for this to work, we're going to have to pop back over here. And let's do something a little different. We're going to add another out. We're going to grab the digital pin out. We're going to put it right here. This one's going to turn on. So this one will turn on when all of the others turn off. So let's check that out real quick. Head on over. I'm going to go to the code, Control A, Control V, and start. Yeah. See, now that one lights up, but it stays on. Here's the challenge. Can you turn that light off when the others are doing their sequence? Okay, so that completes 101, Blinking Lights. Thank you for hanging out with us. We look forward to seeing you in the future classes and hope that you stick around to watch the in real life building of this or even build it with us. Until next time, have fun.